Good evening. I am Dr. Gregory Salters, and thank you for joining me again on tonight as I aim to season everybody for success. One of the things that we're talking about tonight, this is Black History Month, African American History Month. And we're talking about things, and you look at it, even though it is the shortest month of the year, we must also remember that African American history is American history. And as you see from the title, I said that until the lion learns to write, the hunter will always tell the story. What stories would we tell if the lion could really tell what happened on the safari? How many of us on our jobs, we've talked about being the best kept secret. We've had movies out there about hidden figures. We have had men of honor. We've had lots of movies. We've had lots of things done about individuals that are African Americans and things that they have done. But the lion has not been writing the story. What would we be like as a society if we truly knew who invented and were the pioneers of many of the things that we have? Where would our society be if our textbooks actually reflected what was going on? One of the things we must remember when we're talking about this gets into an issue as we call power and privilege. Let's be honest, there's no way that a history book could cover every piece of history that ever happened in a certain area. However, we could make sure that our history books are a little bit more reflective of some of the things and the contributions that various individuals have made. Tonight, what I want to do is just have us begin looking at it and seeing what stories the lion could tell that haven't truly been told by the hunter. And sometimes the hunter might even feel a little bit better about the lion if they knew exactly what it is that the lion contributed. How do we break those cycles? How do we begin at recognizing greatness that's happened out there? Tonight, let me just give you all a few little things that can start us to thinking as we're going along our journey of what is it that's actually happened. Think about what America would be like when we talk about the ironing board. I know many individuals use the ironing board. I know when I was growing up, I was well acquainted with the ironing board. My mom made sure that that happened so that I could iron my clothes, and I still use that ironing board today. Were you aware that the improved ironing board was invented by Sarah Boone, a black woman, in 1892? Where would we be with those things going on? And yes, there have been more advances to them, but when you're talking about that ironing board, that was a black woman. And we have all these systems out here now, our home security systems in the various forms that they're in. How did we get to this point where we had these home security systems? Well, if you look at the home security system, it was co-invented by Mary Van Brittan Brown in 1966, a black woman. When we start thinking about it, we're like, wow, we have all of these new systems. You have all of these new companies that have all these different security systems and all of those out there. That's the hunter. That's where we have advanced from. But do we really know who actually invented it? So now that's a black woman. And as we drive around and we're going through various towns and we're driving down our city streets and we have our traffic lights, those things work very well within traffic engineering, calming streets and everything. But the three light traffic light was invented by Garrett Morgan, a black man, in 1923. When we begin to look at these things that we have invented as black individuals and the contributions we have made to America, do you really believe that our young individuals understand what contributions they've made? It's kind of like when you have individuals in leadership positions and we talk about representation matters. If you see someone that has done something, then you can strive to that. Like, wow, if they did it, then I can do it. That's why we must highlight these outstanding things people have done. Many times, if you've ever heard the phrase is everything is impossible until somebody does it. So here's some instances where blacks have done it. Another one, when you go out there and you're having your ice cold drinks and you're looking at your meat that no longer needs to be salted and you're wondering, how did we come up with this refrigeration? You look at the refrigerated trucks were invented by Frederick McKinley Jones in 1940. So as these things are going around and you have the refrigerated trucks, that was a black man. So where would we be right now if we did not have that technology or that invention? Another one, when you get on these elevators and the doors open automatically and they aren't just the type that you roll open or you had to pry open, you can look at those automatic elevator doors. And that's invented by Alexander Miles in 1887. And one of the things I like to tell people is as we talk about these particular things, these aren't things that Dr. Salters is just making up. I like to often say that when I'm speaking and things that I say, I like to be fact checked. And the things that we talk about are, as we will say, Googleable, meaning able to be found if you used Google. And I'm looking, this information is coming from www.history.com. And I have that also noted in the description. Another one, when you look at the electric microphone, that was co-invented by James E. West in 1964. So many times when you're looking at the podcast, you're looking at radio announcers, you're looking at so many things with that electric microphone, that was a black man. So where would we be without the electric microphone? That would be a different world. That is something that we did. What are these other things that we're looking at? And just imagine if we realize the things that we have invented, how bright is our future? Many times we have to share this information with individuals that don't know. Sometimes when we say that we're ignorant to a fact, that does not mean that you are less intelligent. That just means you are unaware of a fact. And many times we must go on the hunt, if you will, for the information to find out, where did these inventions come from? How did these individuals do it? That could give us a whole new meaning to life. It could give a whole new credibility. And we often talk about breaking cycles. We talk about breaking the poverty cycle. We talk about breaking the domestic violence cycle. We need to break the cycle of not knowing our history from whence we came. We must also understand it. If you understand your history, you can know where we're going. And here in America, people believe that our history began in slavery. That is not where our history began. Our history was interrupted by slavery. So we must look at things that go well beyond slavery. We can look back there and go into Queen Nandi, and we can go back there and look at the Shaka Zulus and look at how they came about. You can look at the kings and queens that ran the nations in Africa and see where gross history we come from. The next one that we look at is the carbon light bulb filament, invented by Louis Latimer in 1881. So therefore, others invented the shape, but Louis Latimer was the one that actually made that filament, which made the light bulb actually work. So we have to understand, who was it that made these things work? This lion must begin to roar. So now we begin another one that we have, and it's one that I thought was very interesting, is the color IBM PC monitor and Gigahertz chip was co-invented by Mark Dean in 1980 and 1999, respectively. A black man. So that is your color IBM monitor. That's us. So where would we have been without the color IBM monitor, which was the forefather of many of the color monitors that we're using now? So when we're out there and we're looking at things and we're saying, what is it that the lion needs to learn to write, or the hunter will always tell the story? And then some have said it funny. They said, think about it. Everything was funny until the rabbit had a gun. So we must look at it with this knowledge that we have out there. We need to look back at certain things that are out there. We have a thirst for knowledge. We must want to know, how did certain things go? Have you ever just wondered what happened? Until the movie The Hidden Figure, did we really realize what was going on? And we look at it that, yes, the man landed on the moon, but it was the ladies that were behind it that engineered it, how to get there and how to get back. So we must begin looking at it. And it's really interesting because a lot of individuals that I know that are making some tremendous strides and are being historians and living legends, the beauty of it is they're being living legends and they're just doing what they do. So I know one of the living legends that National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executive highlighted was Lonnie Lawrence, who's done a lot of things down here in South Florida in law enforcement. There have been many others. If you look here in Broward County, Florida, with this election season, we have numerous African-American first. You think about it. We have judges. One of my fraternity brothers, George Odom. We have the supervisor of elections, another good alpha brother. We have Joe Scott over there. We have our sheriff, Sheriff Tony over there. We have Gordon Weeks. We have Harold Pryor. we have some individuals that have been elected to office and are definitely making history here in Broward County, Florida. So let's look at our history. Let's begin to share our history. Remember that history, the first three letters are his in story. We must begin to write our story, which is America's story, so that everyone can see what contributions we've made so that our entire community can go forward. So as we're out there, and if you're one of these lions that are out there, we must learn to write. And the interesting thing about that is we have individuals talking about systemic issues. You look at it. Notice when the lion begins to write, that's when, until the lion begins to write, the hunter will always tell the story. So I use this as a segue to have everyone go as high as they can in their education. Begin to write your stories. And the ambition I have is writing a book. There are many individuals that are writing a book. Those outlive you. Even though historically we deal with storytelling, we would go out under the baobab tree and stories would be told, and we have an oral history. Although we have an oral history, we need to start capturing that. Those of you all that are out there, you need to start talking to the elders in your community. You need to start interviewing the elders in your community. You need to start documenting that knowledge that they have. So therefore, we can have those knowledges. We can record it, have it in the books so that we can all grow from it. So remember, until the lion begins to write, the hunter will always tell the story. Let's go out there and begin to write our own history. Let's go out there and research and see what all of the wonderful contributions African Americans have made to America. Because remember, African American history is American history. I am Dr. Gregory A. Salters, and you have been seasoned for success. You have a good night.